Okay. It's another barefoot boot video because I just had these delivered several days ago, maybe a week. I don't know. This was the original pair of Broad Wingers that I had Chris make from Broad Winger boots. But these have been redone. You'll notice they don't look the same. For over a year now, let's see if I can center myself on this here, it looks like. Remember, I'm not looking at myself, I'm looking at the front of the camera. I've been wearing these for over a year. Every day is my do everything shoe, and I love them. Let me just get into the whole story real quick, then we'll get into some of the details of these two pairs of boots here. I was having foot issues. I was wearing very expensive, higher end boots. I mean, these are costly. These are not inexpensive. But when I say expensive, I was wearing boots that were in the range of, $200 to $300 for work boots for years, decades. Danners, many pair of Danners. They had the Job Boss back in the day that I liked, but they were super thick leather, hard to break in. The sole on them was a very hard sole that made them hard to flex and break in. And then they came out with the Bull Run later, and I've had several pairs of those. I always resoled them, and I put thicker soles like what you see on this pair, which again we're going to get into. Pretty stoked with this. Problem with all those boots was they get too narrow. Even if I got a pair of wides, at the toes they always bend in. And the biggest issue is where your big toe is. Boot manufacturers need to start changing because that should go straight. It shouldn't bend in. If they just did that with a wide toe, have it go straight where your big toe is, and then round over and then come around, that would be much better. But they have all your shoes pointy for fashion. Somebody somewhere determined that's what everybody wants. And it's not how your feet are shaped. And if you look at a kid's feet or your feet when you were younger, your toes splay out a little bit more. And then over time, because of the shoes that we're wearing, your toes start bending in, and people end up with bunions. When you get bunions, you're opening yourself up to gout as well, which I didn't know. That happened to me. So on my right foot, I was developing some pretty serious issues, and I was looking into sandals and going barefoot as much as possible. And the more I looked into that, I mean, it made sense anyhow, but you learn so much about being barefoot and grounding to the earth and all that. And I got Luna sandals and a lot of different sandal brands and gave them a shot and hiked in them, and it was great, but your feet get dirty and they're not protected. But also my biggest thing was, hey man, I work for a living in a shop atmosphere or on job sites and that sort of thing, and I needed a heavy duty work boot that had the principles, most of the principles, or the criteria of a barefoot shoe. Meaning, zero rise, no heel rise, wide toe box. However, I also still wanted a thicker sole, especially right here in this spot, because it's concrete. When you're on your feet all day, you need that little extra cushioning. And I was getting desperate about this. And the first metatarsal on my right foot was inflamed and red, and it was a major issue that I fixed basically. Every once in a while with diet, excuse me, I don't know what just happened there. And for me, it's junk food. If I eat sugar, and when I say sugar, I mean more like the junk food sugar, corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, that sort of thing. I'll get an attack now, gout in that joint. It's not meat related. People still repeat this myth that it's meat related. It's not. It's garbage food. Processed food is what it is. Combined with alcohol. Too much alcohol and garbage food, you're going to get gout. And I speak so confidently about that because as I've done my research, I've done a lot of it. I've probably done more than you have. Just saying. If you read one thing or just repeat something you heard decades ago over and over again, it doesn't make you right. There are a lot of people, and you can find this if you start doing your own research, who have gout issues, but then they go to a all meat diet, carnivore diet, and all their symptoms disappear. So clearly it's not the meat, right? I'll let you think about that for a few moments. At any rate, I've been really good about that for the last couple months now, or yeah, at least. So no sugar, no garbage food, no alcohol. Everything's fine. And what's crazy about my foot is, I'll maybe show it one day, but there's like this crazy bone growth thing that happened around that joint as because that toe has been in. Now I've forced it over and it's more straight again, and I'm trying to get it to go even further out. And I just manipulate it all the time. Not really what I wanted to talk about, but just so you understand my personal issues. And I have a friend. He and I make all kinds of things. We do bicycle work and all that. And he takes boots apart and reconstructs them. And he's even making a kooky pair of flip flops right now. But we were talking about making our own boots because we really couldn't find anything in the market that worked. Then I stumbled upon Broad Wier boots. And I gave Chris a call. Chris Lehman, great guy. And we talked it out. I looked at his stuff first. So look up Broad Wier. I'll put links to this in the description below. If you don't see them when you watch this video, they will be there momentarily later today, because I'll load this video from here and then I'll go home and do all that on the computer. At any rate, his stuff looked really cool. And I could see his construction method was sound and super heavy duty, and he uses real thick, very, very thick, you know, up to 4 millimeter thick bison hide, American bison. So, and he does rough out and smooth out. And I should have brought an example of leather because you can't see it here so much because both of these boots are rough out boots. We're going to get to that as I talk, as I'm known to do. You know, I talk a little. I can be a little long-winded. Some people don't like that. At any rate, Chris and I started texting. His boots were a little less costly at the time. I think they were coming in at like $900 or so a pair. And as I talked to him, he threw ideas out. I gave him ideas. I didn't know what I was getting myself into really at that point. And I selected some design elements where I wanted the rough out, but because I wanted a tougher boot, I wanted to smooth out on the heel and on a toe. I wanted a toe cap because what I noticed with some of his boots were that the toe collapses down on people's toes, and you can see the outline of that. I just didn't like aesthetically the look of that. And so I went with a smooth out here and a smooth out on the toe, and as I wore them, I just didn't like them aesthetically to look down at. They just looked too much like Frankenstein shoes. I mean, they do enough already because of that square toe, but this is the shape of my foot. This is how my toes look across the front. And so I wasn't wearing them that much, and they were a little too wide on the inside, and I talked to Chris about it. We came up with a new last, and then we built this pair. I say we, he did, based on my recommendations. Now, I've pushed Chris a little bit with his design aesthetic and his thinking on barefoot shoes, because Chris's thing is he wants to have as thin of a sole as possible, which most people who are into the barefoot shoe movement, that's what they want. They want that to flex. And this was maybe one of the thickest soles he had made at that time, but you can see this is still super flexible. And when these are on your feet, you can still, they bend this way even. You can probably see that. And this way. And so with these on, hiking and everything else, my feet will wrap around rocks. So you can still, it will still contour to whatever you're walking on. You can still feel the ground under your feet even with the thicker sole. He wasn't sure about that. The other thing I did with this particular pair, and it might be the first time he ever did this, was I had him reinforce the toe from the inside. So there's an extra thick piece of an extra thick piece of leather glued, shaped on my last that he made for my feet underneath here. And that's why this toe looks so good here. It hasn't collapsed down. So that was a new thing for him. I cut this back and made my own reinforcement piece and hand stitched that here because I like my sock to tuck along here. So that was a change for him. I make my own kilties. Wasn't super stoked with this one. I redesigned it where it flares out, where it pokes out past the laces. I think that's a lot better looking. And I didn't invent that. I've seen pictures of it from on other websites and on social media, Instagram, that sort of thing. So I had to make my own template. I'll show you a picture of that. I'll pop that in here at some point. Let's just do that right now. Okay, so that's the template that I made just by eyeballing things, and that would be adjusted in size, width, length, whatever, depending on the boot that you own. I just make them for myself. At any rate, I wore these for a while, and I sent this pair here back to Chris to reconstruct without the smooth toe and put a thicker sole on it. So I want you guys to notice the difference in the thickness here on the sole. That's pretty massive right there. And I wanted that because as much as I love this shoe, when I was on my feet all day on concrete, my feet were hurting at the end of the day. And what you'll also notice here, this is worn a little bit, but you might be able to see this on screen. This, what they call this Moreflex or New Flex, that's the tan layer. It compressed at the heel and never returned. You'll see the heel here is a little thinner than what you see over here. And so I was having some issues that I had to solve with that, which I did. I put a little piece of Spenco insole, like the green topped one. I cut it just in the heel shape, and I put it underneath the heel to compensate for that compression. What happened was my Achilles was overstretched, and so I was having a little bit of, it hurt. So I couldn't even exercise for a few months because of that, which is something you need to be aware of with barefoot shoes in general. Forget about this compression thing. With no heel rise, your body has to get used to that. The backs of your legs, your Achilles tendon, and everything else has to get used to being stretched that much. When you're barefoot walking around, it's being stretched like that all the time. But if you're living in shoes all the time, that becomes shorter and gets used to that. So you can't just you shouldn't just jump into barefoot shoes without thinking about that and breaking yourself into that and getting your body to realign itself and acclimate to it and have that Achilles and all those muscles in the back of your leg stretch. So you can wear these all the time comfortably. So it's a process. And it's what we should all be doing. At any rate, this is a great boot. I still love it. But what I'm going to be doing now is I'll be sending this back to Chris because it does need to be resoled. All right. This is a Vibram sole, but it was also a very thin Vibram sole. You should be able to see that right here on the screen. You see how thin that rubber is before the Moreflex there. So, and that's how much it wore out in, I don't even know how many months now. I know it's been over a year for sure. Not bad. Held up pretty good. Resoling your shoes is a normal thing. These are all resolable. Made super well. Love them. Now I'm wearing these. I wore these all day yesterday in here and no fatigue whatsoever on the bottoms of my feet. I don't even have an insole in these right now. When you get them sometimes, they might be a little snug and you might have to stretch them a little. At least I did. I didn't have to on the first pair for some reason, but on this pair I had to do it to the left boot right here where the first metatarsal is. On this one I had to do it on the right boot and it's fine. Easy way to do it. I actually found an even easier way in the last couple days. I'm not going to explain it right now, but if you guys want me to, I'll do another video on that. But it's fine now. It's fitting a lot better. And I'm very, very happy with this. And these also flex. So even with that thick sole, you know, my foot is going to form in here. And it's going to shape the bottom of this boot. And you're going to see, you're going to have the same wear where you see the pattern of your foot comes up here and out to the side and along the bottom. That's going to happen on these two. The difference is, look how much thicker that sole is. So on these, you have the thick rubber Vibram sole. Then you have a 2mm black layer that, you know, it's probably a little softer than the sole itself, the Vibram. Then you have the Moreflex, which is 10mm. Then you have the thick leather of the footbed inside the boot. You see this orangey looking layer here. I hope this is all reading on camera. I hope it's in focus. That is this piece of leather. You see it on the toe, that orangey piece you can see right here. That's the inner toe stiffener, flattened out and sewn there, which I really like that detail. And it lets you know that that's what's going on. So that's just super cool. Again, I don't think Chris did this before I asked him to do it with the internal, so I'm taking credit for it, Chris. And more people are probably going to ask him for this because it looks better over a longer period of time. On this pair, I cut this back, pulled it down, made my own new reinforcement, restitched it. But I also stitched this topper on here because the first pair we did, which is this pair, I only went with the 5-inch height, and I found that when I like to wrap my laces around the top. It's like your prepper survivalist thing. These laces are twice as long as you need them to be. So you have all this extra cordage even on your feet. I know it's crazy to be thinking in those terms, but I can't help myself, excuse me. So I wrap a lot of the rope around the top, and it was popping over the top. So when I did this pair, I did the 6-inch height, and I left that top inch so you can see the pattern, the wear here, where the laces wrap around the top. So in my opinion, if you get this boot and you're similar minded, consider just going with the 6-inch and then doing the same thing. You don't have to lace them to the top hole versus the 5-inch. That's just my opinion. Now, that's it, man. I'm very happy with these shoes. Super stoked. I don't remember what his prices are now, but they could be like $1,200, which is a thing for people. Most people don't want to spend that kind of money, especially when you're younger, you know. But when you get older, and if you're having issues, the thing about the shoes is not only are they most shoes are pushing your toes together, that heel rise is a problem, believe it or not. It's actually bad for you. Even arch supports, all of it. I found that going to the Barefoot shoe with no arch support whatsoever, because I had kind of flat feet, you couldn't see a visible arch in my feet. It's been 4 years or so now, like dedicated to the Barefoot thing. Now I look at my feet and I have a visible arch. The bottoms of my feet have more muscle in them. I could feel it with my hands and I can see it. And I could feel it on the ground. Like my feet strengthened, got stronger, again, developed an arch, my toes are splaying out more. It's healthier. It's a healthier way to be. A lot of people have sciatic nerve issues. They've got back problems, lower back problems, all kinds of these issues. A lot of it is caused by your footwear. So if you have those issues, consider the Barefoot thing. Now, this is a lot of money to be spending for a first-time thing, so don't do that. Right now, there's a ton of companies out there that sell Barefoot shoes. Zero Shoes starts with an X. Is a company I could think of off the top of my head. There's quite a few of them. And now, all of a sudden, we have guys making more affordable, heavy-duty, barefoot work boots. This is a thing. This is a trend now that's starting to happen. And one guy, Flat Step is the name of the company. I recommend you look him up. He's a young guy. He contacted me. He's been down in Mexico for the better part of a year. He's developing a wide toe heavy-duty work boot, but that also has a safety toe in it. So it's going to be a composite safety toe, which has been very difficult for him to pull off. He's supposed to be sending me a pair to review for the channel, and if they ever come, I'll do a whole video on that. But now you're also seeing other things crop up. I'm going to show you a couple snapshots right here. Okay, so that guy's Instagram page is called Texarado Boots. I guess he's in Texas. I just wanted to talk about it because it's when you look at his boots and you look at Chris's, it's like a one-off copy, right? And you're going to think that when you first look at that. You're going to be like, he stole Chris's design and idea. Not really. Kind of not really. I don't think that doing what he did as far as like, he must have done a bunch of research, figured this out, decided to design them. I mean, they look exactly like these. I mean, his are smooth out. You can see the bison, which you can see on the inside of this shoe, what bison hide looks like. You might be able to see the inside of there if I can get the light right. I can't see what you see. But that's what that is. He's got the smooth out there. And most of Chris's boots are smooth out. Chris's boots, if you've looked, Broad Wier, Instagram, Broad Wier, hashtag Broad Wier, at Broad Wier, www.broadwier.com. You'll see. This is a different sort of thing for him to be. He does the rough outs, has been doing the rough outs. I didn't invent the rough out. In World War II, the boots the Marines wore were rough outs. And then what they would do is they'd apply oil to the rough out and treat them, and that's what you need to do. On these, I'm treating them from the inside with Picard, like a paste in there. Chris recommended that. A couple times a year, you want to treat the insides of these things. So it's a thing. Chris and I have discussed it with this guy because it's a little weird. You would think if he's done the research and he has to know he's producing a product that looks exactly like what Chris is doing, he would at least give a nod to it. But I don't see that anywhere. At any rate, his shoes, just like the guy in Mexico, they're going to be a generic last. So they're wide toe, no heel rise, all the parameters of a barefoot shoe in a heavy-duty work boot, but again, a generic size. So the odds are you can order that. They'll probably be true to size lengthwise. If you're a 10, you can order a 10. It'll be fine. You'll have more room in your toe box. The issue with that is that you get that shoe, it should fit you, but you might have an issue with your heel rising when you're stepping and walking and whatnot because that's a generic size shoe. See, whenever in the past when I was ordering shoes, I would order a wide, and the problem was when you laced it up, these, I don't know what these are called, with these side parts here called with the eyelets in them, but it would get super tight, like, you know, because there was all this extra volume in the shoe because you're ordering a wide. And I guess the thinking of the shoe companies, if you're ordering a wide, you have a giant foot, like it's also tall. My feet aren't tall. And you really notice it with this. I wear a 10, size 10. But you see, this is not high here. I mean, it slowly shapes up. So the difference between buying a barefoot work boot that looks like this and getting one from Chris is when you deal with Chris, he gets on a camera with you, like live, and he's watching you, and he's going to have you, he has a whole little contraption that he invented to trace your foot exactly. He gets specific measurements at specific parts of your foot, and he's looking right at it. He wants you to put these pencil lines on the paper and put the tape over the top of your foot in a couple different spots and do circumferences here and there, and again, trace it out properly. And he's watching you do it on the camera, because what he's going to do then is he's going to make a custom last, which is just basically like a sculpture of your foot in a way. He's got to make that first, and then he builds the shoes around your feet. So Chris is doing things where people like me, like my right foot is taller because that first metatarsal got so huge. So if you have foot issues, you go to a guy like Chris, and you're going to get a pair of shoes designed exactly for your feet, which is why when you look at the pictures of Broad Wingers, you see all these different, some of the shoes look more pointed or rounder in the front. That's because those people have like a shorter big toe, right? They look, every pair he makes looks a little bit different because it's designed for the shape of that specific person's foot. That's the difference. So the guy in with the what is it? It's a hard thing for me to pronounce for some reason. I wrote it down. Texarado boots there on Instagram. That's not what you're getting. You're getting a boot that has a wide toe, and it should work for you. Looks okay. It looks weird. I was really studying those images yesterday, but thinking about this video. And the way it's stitched down to the sole, like it doesn't look as well done as the Broad Wingers, but I'm sure that his shoes are only going to be a couple $100 a pair. That's what I'm guessing. He hasn't really put too much information out. I don't think they're available yet. I did reach out to him at some point. I sent him a note saying, hey, I do all these videos on barefoot shoes. If you want somebody to review a pair, send them to me. I'm not going to talk smack. Just because I'm friends with Chris and I think this guy somewhat ripped off the idea, maybe that's too harsh of a thing. That's not what I'm saying. I respect what he's doing. I'm a capitalist. I respect anybody that can build a better mousetrap. Put your own spin on it. It's what I do. So do your thing, make your money. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just trying to point out the difference, what you're getting, what you're paying for, which makes sense. And it's what he's doing is what we need. What Flat Step is doing is what we need. I think Flat Step is coming in at under $200. At least that's what he was telling me on the phone when we were talking. We'll find out more when he actually gets these things produced and see what his unit price actually is. But I think that's a pretty good price because that's the same price people are spending on, what we all think is a decent pair of work boots. If you come in at the $150 to $200 range, that's an affordable shoe for people like me, blue collar people that need a heavy duty work boot. So hopefully the Texerado boots will come in at that range. If they're coming in at 200, even if they're $300, that's very affordable. So most people could get into those and test the waters with it and see how it feels. For those of you who, there's a lot of us out there as we get older, and it's not like I have any money. I don't. But you start noticing nicer things as you get older, and you want it. And you treat yourself from time to time. You buy yourself a nice watch. You buy yourself a nice pair of boots. You get yourself a nice leather jacket. You get yourself a cool fedora or something, maybe a ring, whatever. The point is, you treat yourself along the way as you get more success in life. So let's put that here. That's a big thing. The other thing is foot issues. If you have real foot issues, one foot's bigger than the other, toes are, club foot, whatever the hell it is going on at your feet, Broad Wier exists. And everybody who has those sorts of issues that need something custom made to fit their particular body or body part, we'll keep it clean. Like you need custom underwear for a reason. You know what I'm saying? You just need more space there. All wetsuits should be designed kind of with a pocket, in my opinion, in the groin area because it just cuts everything off, man. Let's not talk about that anymore. But my point is, if you have foot issues, you need that. Like my body's like that, right? So I'm 5'9", but I've got a 48-inch chest, and I'm not fat. Right? I don't have some big belly on me. So for me to get clothes sometimes, I buy things that most of the stuff that fits me here is designed for somebody that's well over 6 feet tall. So it's too long in the sleeves. It hangs too long on my body. For decades, I've been bringing shirts and jackets and things like that to seamstresses, the cleaners. They usually have a tailor there to shorten things. So it looks okay on me. It's a problem, man. So same thing with the foot thing. I'm just throwing all that out there. And again, I'm not talking smack with the Texerado boot guy. But it would just be nice if he did a thing saying, I saw those. Those are cool. That's the reason I'm doing. I'm trying to make them so that they're cheaper. Maybe he doesn't want to say that because he feels like he's knocking Broad Wier because his Broad Wier's boots are so much more money. But there's nothing. Don't worry about that. It's to be expected. If you're the craftsman that Chris is, where you're taking the time to make a custom last for your left foot and your right foot, and you're building a shoe around that so that those shoes fit that person exactly the way they're supposed to, that is that's a horse of a different color. That is different than, hey, I like your shoes, I like the way they look, I like that they're barefoot shoes, wide toe box, zero rise, heavy duty, thick bison hide, send me a size 10. Over. That's it. You get them, you put them on, you see what happens. So I would love to try those boots. At this point in time, I don't have the money to be shelling out $200-300 for a pair of boots just to review them on the channel. I would like to do it though. I would like to review those, give you guys my honest opinion, which is probably going to be telling you to buy them. And same thing with Flat Step. That guy contacted me. He made the offer to send me a pair, and hopefully they'll show up. And when they do, I'll show them to you. I think that's going to be a great solution for so many people, because a lot of guys, when I was putting up the videos of these shoes, hit me up about the toe, because they do look like they have a steel toe or something in them because they've been reinforced with that inner layer. They've got that vibe going, and they need that for their job. There's a lot of construction sites where OSHA is a thing, right? So you have to have a safety toe, or factories. So there's a lot of guys that are on their feet all day on concrete. They want a thicker sole that's going to absorb that shock. Or just if you're standing on concrete all day at a machine, you need that insulation layer between the bottoms of your feet and the ground, just for that little bit of pillow. Just a little bit there. Because if you don't have that, take your shoes off in bare feet and stand on concrete in one spot, for 8 hours. See what that feels like. It's not pleasant. So you need that little bit of cushion there. I mentioned that to Flat Step as well. So, I mean, he might have thickened his sole up for that purpose as well. At any rate, that's the end of this video. I just wanted to talk about this. I'm ecstatic with these. I'm wearing these right now. Well, I will be in a moment. Let's not get into that. And, yeah, Broad Wier boots. Custom made, man. Barefoot, heavy duty, bison hide. You just can't go wrong. You cannot go wrong with these things. So try the other companies out there with the barefoot shoes. See if you can afford them. You know what I'm doing right here. I'm trying to find that screenshot for the my barefoot shoes. Try a pair that's more affordable now. See what that does for your body. And then save your shekels there. And then eventually you go to Chris and have a custom pair made. Again, not for everybody. But there's a lot of you right now who scoff at the cost. 5 years from now, you're going to want them. And you'll have the coin to do it. And hopefully Chris will still be doing it. Chris is married. He's got a new baby. These took forever to get to me. Months and months and months. Just because he's been so distracted with life. And he's had some setbacks in life. And some things have happened, personal stuff that he's been going through, but everything seems like it's evening out now, so hopefully he'll be able to get back to work full force and get things done in a more timely manner. Now that I have these, now that I know these fit me well and they're going to be fine, as I mentioned earlier, I think, I will be sending these to Chris in the next week or two. It's about $100 or so, I think, to resole them, and maybe a little bit more here because I'm adding all this stuff, but again, we're going to put the same sole that's on this brown one on the tan one, and then I'll be done. That'll be it. This, again, over a year every day with that much thinner layer of Vibram on the bottom compared to this. These are going to last years before they need to be resold. And once I get these back, I'll rotate these back and forth. So both these pairs of boots, I'm going to make a bold statement here, but I think that once this tan one has this sole on it, you know, the whole build-up, exactly the same. I don't think I'll need to resole these probably for the rest of my life because I'm old. Who knows? I'm not going to be around much longer. You know what I'm saying? And hand these down to my people in my family or something. You know, heirloom quality boots. It's like furniture. At any rate, that's it. You guys have a good day. Thanks for being here. Be kind to one another. Come back often. Tell your friends. I'll catch you in the next one.